gather round as I regale you in a tale of military disaster. Not on the battlefields of Austerlitz or Waterloo. Oh no, this is a completely different arena. A battle so absurd, so completely outlandish, you couldn't make it up. Napoleon Bonaparte, Emperor of France. Yep, you heard me right. Napoleon, the terror of European battlefields, the guy who successfully conquered Egypt, Spain, Holland, Italy, Austria, to name but a few. Oh yes, the man who had successfully conquered most of Europe was about to have a completely mental comeuppance on a certain summer day in 1807. And the cause of this? Rabbits. When we think of these fluffy little creatures today, we automatically conjure up images in our minds of cute pets. And of course, in the rural areas of the world, they might be considered as pests. But on this fateful day, Napoleon's strategic genius would be put to the test by an army of rabbits who would make even the most ferocious of generals break into a cold sweat. Now let's set the scene. It's the year 1807. Napoleon has just signed the Treaty of Tilsit, securing peace with Russia and Prussia, two major European powers. What better way to celebrate them with a little relaxation, right? And so, Napoleon, ever the lover of pageantry and showmanship, bloody show-off, decides to have a grand rabbit hunt. Now, this hunt would not be one of those elegant affairs, with men in top hats riding through the countryside with their hunting dogs. No, this was to be something a lot more spectacular. Napoleon's aides had this brilliant idea of gathering thousands of rabbits. What a man of Napoleon's stature, if not a man of spectacle, they probably thought. So, in preparation for the hunt, they rounded up not hundreds, but thousands of rabbits. Now, these weren't your typical wild rabbits, oh no. These were farm-bred tame rabbits. The cute cuddly types that live in pens and, hop over to you when they think you've got something for them. So they were never the type of bunnies who have ever been asked to take on the role of a fierce opponent in a battle. But these poor unsuspecting creatures were about to be thrust into a fight they never even signed up for. On the day of the hunt, Napoleon, along with his entourage, was prepared to watch these rabbits flee in terror from the might of his hunting prowess. But that's not quite how it went down. The rabbits, having been well fed and kept in captivity, were not exactly frightened by the appearance of the emperor and his men. In fact, when they were released out into the open, they didn't even scatter. No, on the contrary. They charged. It was like some kind of mad hallucination. Imagine thousands of rabbits, no longer the innocent wide-eyed creatures from your garden, but now a massive fur-covered twitching mob rushing toward Napoleon and his unsuspecting party. At first, Napoleon might have thought, what a marvellous sight, of course in a French accent. This is exactly what I'd planned. But no, this was no ordinary bunny stampede. As the rabbits swarmed, they didn't flee in fear. They instead homed in on Napoleon's party like a gang of determined seagulls about to swoop down on unsuspecting seaside tourists. Napoleon's men, who were ready to hunt, suddenly found themselves dodging fur and teeth as the fluffy assailants hopped into the fray. Napoleon, who was not exactly known for his sense of humour, now faced a literal horde of rabbits making a beeline for him. Imagine Napoleon, conqueror of entire nations, standing there, watching his army quaking, not from enemy fire, but from a relentless wave of tiny, fluffy creatures. His men were confused, and there was just a general sense of disbelief. And the rabbits, who were in no mood for diplomacy, no, they had taken one look at the emperor and his men and had come to one conclusion. They were people. And people meant treats, yay, and a warm pen to live in. However, to Napoleon's men, it looked like something else. Oh, it looked like vengeance that was seeping out of those little twitching noses, and a defiance in the way their ears stood erect. Oh yeah, the rabbits weren't running away. Napoleon found himself, he is the conqueror of Europe, charged by a horde of feisty rabbits. Reports suggest that Napoleon and his men were soon overwhelmed. The emperor, as one might imagine, wasn't exactly used to ordering a retreat. But the rabbits, they were not going to let him go that easily. Oh no. They followed him relentlessly, hopping at his heels, nipping at his boots, nipping at his trousers. There was to be no glory, no cheers for the emperor, only the relentless pounding of little feet. Eventually, after what must have been quite a humiliating occurrence, Napoleon was forced to retreat to his carriage, a fur-covered twitching sea of rabbits still in pursuit. Napoleon's dream of a peaceful, relaxing hunt had been reduced to a chaotic fiasco. And there was no military strategy that could rescue him from the clutches of these fluffy adversaries. What's particularly amusing about this story is the aftermath. A defeated Napoleon, no doubt with a deep sense of shame, had to return to his imperial life. His grand plans for relaxation had been dashed by the very little creatures who he'd hoped to hunt. And his aides? Well, they were likely trying to hide their laughter behind their hands, knowing they'd failed to predict what would ultimately be one of the most absurd moments in military history. Some historians have argued that this strange incident might have been a symbolic moment for Napoleon. Perhaps in the end, it wasn't the armies of Europe that would bring him down, but a horde of bunnies. Gentle, docile creatures that somehow had a greater sense of rebellion than even those European monarchs that Napoleon had previously subdued. And so this great rabbit uprising of 1807 went down in history not as a glorious battle or a shining example of Napoleon's military genius, but as a story of how a bunch of furry little animals managed to mug the Emperor of France. So the next time you see a group of rabbits, yes, they may look cute, but they could be plotting a revolution of their own.